Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's kind of cool here. It's supposed to be 48 today, and I don't think it hit 38. It's been that way for a few days. This week's portion is Beshalach, and it means when let go, and that comes from Exodus 13:17. It says when Pharaoh had let the people go. So Beshalach is Exodus 13:17 through 17:16. As an overview, we have Elohim leads people to the Red Sea. You know, he didn't lead them up through the wilderness, so they were confounded when they got to the coast there. Then he divides the sea, and the people walk over on dry ground. Then we have the Song of the Sea, or Moshe's song, commemorating Yahweh's victory over Egypt and its gods. Then we have Miriam's song, commemorating Yahweh's victory over Egypt. We have the bitter water of Marah. We have the manna and the quail. Water flows from the rock. And finally, we have the first battle, and it's against Amalek. But for this, I would like to focus on the Song of the Sea, or Moshe's song. This has always been a really interesting thing for me. I'd like to read it first. Exodus 15, 1 through 19. Then sang Moshe and the children of Israel this song unto Yahweh, and spake, saying, I will sing unto Yahweh, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. Yahweh is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my Elohim. And I will prepare for him a habitation. My father's Elohim, I will exalt him. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sank into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Yahweh, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Yahweh, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. And in the greatness of thine excellency thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sendest forth thy wrath, which consumed them as stubble. And with the blast of thy nostrils the waters were gathered together, and the flood stood upright as an heap, and the depths were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. Thou didst blow with thy wind, the sea covered them, and they sank as lead in the mighty waters. Who is like unto thee, O Yahweh, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? Thou stretchedst out thy right hand, the earth swallowed them. Thou in thy mercy hast led forth the people which thou hast redeemed. Thou hast guided them in thy strength unto thy holy habitation. The people shall hear and be afraid. Sorrow shall take hold on the inhabitants of Palestina. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed. The mighty men of Moab, trembling, shall take hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Fear and dread shall fall upon them. By the greatness of thine arm they shall be as still as stone, till thy people pass over, O Yahweh, till the people pass over which thou hast purchased. Thou shalt bring them in and plant them in the mountain of thine inheritance. In thy place, O Yahweh, which thou hast made for thee to dwell, in thy sanctuary, O Yahweh, which thy hands have established. Yahweh shall reign forever and ever. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and with his horsemen into the sea. And Yahweh brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. So man, there's a lot of lessons in there. But in particular, like I said, this has always fascinated me. And I was reading this time through, I was reading an article written by, he calls himself Rabbi Yaakov Haber. Okay. So verse 1 says, Then sang Moshe and the children of Israel this song unto Yahweh, and spake, saying, I will sing unto Yahweh, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. So, and I'll just this is like half the article, and it was just laden with Hebrew words. So I just I dissected it, paraphrased it a little bit. So this introductory phrase presents a grammatical anomaly. Literally translated, the beginning of the phrase reads, Then Moshe will sing, in the future tense rather than in the expected past or present tense. So, this Mr. Yaakov Haber borrowed from Rashi, and I'm borrowing from him. So now Rashi presents two explanations for this tense issue. Moshe's heart, and the two explanations are, Moshe's heart instructed him to arise and sing to Elohim. The second explanation is that Moshe will sing this song again in the future at the resurrection of the dead. This begs the question, what is the connection between the Song of the Sea, or the Song of Moshe, and the future resurrection? In order to answer this question, let's look at what Moshe has said to Elohim. And that's Exodus 5:23. For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in thy name, he hath done evil to this people. Neither hast thou delivered thy people at all. Then Moshe turns around and formulates this song to Yahweh. So how does Moshe's singing to Hashem when the Hebrew people were saved from Pharaoh correct his complaining to the Most High when the persecution and servitude became greater? The Song of the Sea was more than just praise to the Creator for saving Israel. It was a spontaneous outpouring of the soul, reflecting the elevated state of Israel reached at that point. In light of that exalted state, they were allowed to witness the opening of the curtain of history, masking the inner workings of divine providence. And I like that word. Our founding fathers used that word a lot. And providence to them, and here, is not happenstance or fate. It means the Father's controlling things. So anyhow, I'm going to repeat that. In light of that exalted state, they were allowed to witness the opening of the curtain of history, masking the inner workings of divine providence. To explain, on the intellectual plane, we know that everything the merciful one does for the good. But we do not always sense that on the level of experience and feeling. The different blessings pronounced on good news and bad news reflect this duality. However, in the perfect world of the future, we will praise the Most High with the identical, even for apparent evil. It says that our tears will be wiped away, and people assume that you're just going to forget about certain people or certain things that happened. But I don't believe that. We will have totally appropriated the Most High's work, and our will be towards Him. So we'll think about things the way He does, at least more so, in my opinion. At that point, we will be able to feel and experience, as well as cognitively know, the latent good that was inherent in the seemingly evil events of Hebrew history and our own. The event and accompanying revelation of the tearing of the Red Sea enabled the Hebrews for a moment in history to reach that same level of perception. They were able to sing to Hashem not only for the Exodus and miraculous salvation, but even for all the apparent evil, all the bad things that had happened to them. Moshe, led by the unity of the people of Israel, in this futuristic paean. A paean is a joyous song. I had to look it up. P-A-E-A-N. So Moshe, led by the unity of the people of Israel, in this futuristic paean, singing it within the framework of this world, normally masked by the unclarity of our experience, since the curtain had been temporarily opened. Therefore, Moshe reflects back on when he expressed shock over apparent injustice over Israel's treatment to Yahweh, back in Exodus 5:23 when he complained, and realizes how wrong he was to do, since he realized in the seeming downturn together with all the rest of the servitude and persecution in Egypt was just good in disguise. Therefore, the future tense is used. This song, although sung in the past, ultimately reflects a level of revelation that will be the norm in the world of the future, the time of the resurrection, when we get our perfect bodies. We'll have perfect minds. The ancient pagans, including the Egyptians, solved the problem of the seemingly opposing forces of good and evil by inventing a god of good and a god of evil. Sometimes one was victorious, at other times the other was. But the sons of Israel were shown the truth, that Elohim managed both powers in the world, which were harnessed for the good. By his name, El, God, Elo, and then Nahim is plural. He is all gods. He's the source of every power that any God has in this world. Now let's look at some verses that Mr. Yaakov and Mr. Roshi will or would not allow themselves access to. And that's in Revelation 15, 1 through 4. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. For in them is filled up the wrath of Elohim. Now the 7 last plagues, we went over that, I believe, last week. These were the 7 last plagues of the 10 Israel was immune to. The Father put up a wall and separated them. So I believe this is a direct reference to that. Verse 15:2. And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and then they had gotten a victory over the beast and over his image and over his mark, and over the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, having the harps of Elohim. And they sang the song of Moshe, the servant of Elohim, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are thy works, Adonai Almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. Now the song of the Lamb, as I understand from what I've read, that is actually the Messiah singing himself. Verse 4. Who shall not fear thee, O Yahweh, and glorify thy name? For thou only art holy. For all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are made manifest. So, we're going to see pure worship. The Messiah is singing, and the saints are singing the song of Moshe. So as a conclusion, at least for myself, I think I should reflect more on, especially when something I perceive as bad happens to me. Then I should examine it to ascertain if it can help me grow, or if it's punishment for something I did. But regardless, I should be more thankful for things good and bad. And I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do, but I think we need to take it on more, of a feeling level than just the things are good, than just mentally noting that Yahweh does, good things for us. Even though he does, we need to actually believe it, synthesize it. So thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.